Okay, handout 3, solving 1 and 2-step equations, which should definitely be a review from last year. So again, we'll go quickly. So when you're solving an equation, our goal is to isolate, which means to get it by itself, get the variable by using inverse operations. And inverse just means the opposite. So opposite is right here. So the opposite of addition would be subtraction. The opposite of subtraction would be addition. Multiplying is dividing. Dividing is multiplying. So those are the things that undo what you've done. So you first use addition and subtraction to remove the constants. So you're always getting rid of the numbers that don't have any letters with them. And then you use multiplication and division to remove the coefficients. And then tip, if you're dividing by a fraction, we want you to try to multiply by the reciprocal. Because if you recall, if you're not using a calculator, when you divide by a fraction, you actually flip the second number and then you multiply. And so that's the same as multiplying by that reciprocal, because reciprocal is when you flip it. So the best thing to do is, if you're messy or unorganized, if you draw a river, and you don't have to, that just helps you keep things organized on each side and to remember to do the same thing to one side as the other. Best thing to do is to look for the variable and decide what's happening to it. So here we're dividing by 1.5. So the opposite is to multiply by 1.5. And so when you do that, and again, you can use your calculator for stuff like that. It's 24. X equals 24. Okay, just don't use your calculator for little tiny problems, or you'll just forget your basic facts. Okay, we're multiplying by 12, so the opposite means we're going to divide by 12. And I would really recommend, if you're not going to show any steps, at least show the division step, because then you put it in your calculator right or in your head right, because the top number always goes first. So 42 divided by 12 is 3.5. So n equals 3.5. Okay, the next one is what they're talking about right here. So we have a fraction, and it's 6/7. So to get rid of that 6/7, if we multiplied by the reciprocal of 7/6, it cancels out, because 7 times 6 is 42. 6 times 7 is 42. 42 over 42 is 1. So they cancel out, and they become just E. And so then if we're over here and we multiply by 7/6, you can get your calculator out if you want. But the idea is, if you go back to what we learned last year and you cross reduce first, so this becomes a 1 and this becomes a 2, you have 2 times 7, and you can do all of that without a calculator. And it makes you look really smart. Okay, next one. Now don't get freaked out when there's fractions. So we have g plus 3.5. So we're adding 3.5, so we're going to minus 3.5. So you have g equals, and if we minus 3.5, I'm just going to do 3.5. And I'm going to do that mentally, because if I minus 3, I'm at 7. And then I'm going to take another half away, so I'm at 6.5. So you can do 6.5 or 6.5. Again, try to use your brain as much as you can. It's called brain power. Okay, next one. We are minusing 4.25, so we're going to add 4.25. So we're going to do plus 4.25. Now, I don't blame you when you have negatives and then you have decimals to pull out your calculator, because you're liable to make mistakes. But if you aren't going to, remember, if the signs are different, you're actually subtracting. And you got to subtract the bigger number minus the smaller number. So like this one would be 4.25 minus 4, which leaves you 0.25. And then you got to take the sign of the bigger number, which was positive. So T equals, or you can do 1/4. Okay, the next one, we have negative 6 plus M equals 3.6. So if you want to flip them around, you can flip them around and go M minus 6 equals 3.6 if that helps you. Or the opposite of a negative 6 is adding 6, which is what we're going to do here, add 6. And when you add 6, you get 9.6. Okay, the next thing is I am going to do, let's see here. Yeah, those are all one-step problems. So we're going to write and solve an equation modeled by the following. And you might see these on Iowa assessments. So if you look at these, you got negative x and negative x. So that would represent negative 2x because you got two of them. Equals, and then you have 6 negative ones. So negative 6. And then you're going to solve the equation. So we're multiplying by negative 2, so the opposite is to divide by negative 2. And you get x equals, a negative divided by negative is a positive. Okay, I should have let you do some of those on your own. So now we're going to move to two-step equations. And the first thing that you should do is you're adding and subtracting. If it helps you to do that, you can. And remember, you can pause the video at any time and do all these and then just check your work speed through the answers. So you're going to minus 14. Now, this is where people mess up because if you put minus 14 here, and then you have 9m equals, if you're using a calculator, you're typing in negative 13 minus 14. Otherwise, it might help you to write it out the long way until you get to be an expert at it like me. But you have a negative 13, add a negative 14. And same signs, add and keep. So 9m equals negative 27. And then you're going to divide by 9 on each side, and you get m equals negative 3. All right, the next problem, I'm going to pause it and you do it and see what you get. So I ran out of room. So we have a negative 6 equals n over 2. This is divided by, so we're going to multiply by 2. So you should get n equals negative 12. And again, you can pause and do all these and then just fast forward to seeing the answers if you want to work ahead. So on this one, we're going to have 1/2 b equals, and then we're adding 16 to each side. So if you put plus 16 here, you're actually subtracting and taking the sign of the bigger number. And then this is one of those fractions. So yes, you could do 12 divided by 1/2 on your calculator. But when you divide, you're flipping the second number. So it should be b equals 24. Okay. Next one, you are going to subtract by 15. So we have 4w equals negative 28. And then you're dividing by 4, so we have w equals negative 7. Here we're we're minusing 31. So we have 9. And then we have d divided by 1.6. So we're going to times by 1.6. So we have d equals 14.4. And here we have minusing 9. And so, or 19. And I'm going to be cut off here in a second. So you're going to minus 19. And then I want you to times by 3 over 2 because that cancels it out. So see if you can come up with the answer of 24. And you can try these if you want. You should definitely be able to try this one. And it would be nice if you would try These